86% of AI citations come from sources brands already control. So, how do you navigate a community like Reddit when it's top of mind in AI responses? While all of us are optimizing product pages and blog posts, Reddit is beating traditional SEO at the game of rankings in Google. Worse, AI tools like ChatGPT and Claude are pulling those same Reddit threads into their answers. That means your brand reputation is being shaped by Redditors and not your marketing team. With Google paying $60 million to license Reddit data and Sam Altman holding 9% stake in Reddit stock, this isn't a fluke. Reddit is becoming the AI training ground for discovery. I'm Jordan Cooney, and today I'm talking with Danny Kirk, founder at ReddiReach. His agency has helped 500 brands grow on Reddit, ethically and at scale. And he understands how to turn Reddit from a liability into an AI search advantage. Danny, welcome to the Voice of the Search podcast.
Jordan, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, super excited to have you join us. This is a hot topic right now, right? Like everybody's talking about Reddit. It has become a mainstream marketing office conversation, right? And it's just all over the place in terms of its influence. And there's been a lot of data around this. And maybe before we dive into our first question, Danny, just give us a little history as to how you got into this business and a little bit of background on ReddiReach.
Yeah, for sure. So we're about 9 years old now. I've kind of started and failed and learned many lessons from some startups over the past 15 years. And ReddiReach was born out of all those lessons learned on growing other companies, on a couple big wins I had had before. So kind of taking all those kind of growth tactics that I had learned before, because I had never had investors or anything like that. If we wanted money, we had to go raise it from our customers. So all those lessons learned, took that to an agency, and that's where we are 9 years later, having helped over 500 brands grow and focusing on Reddit and AI search these days.
Love it. Now, when we were talking earlier, you mentioned that you were a classically trained trumpet player and you've got a whole history in music. How do you go from being a musician to building a $2 million Reddit marketing agency that serves over 500 brands?
Yeah, it wasn't it wasn't in the cards. That's for sure. I come from a family of academics and musicians, all of which were very talented. And from a young age, like you said, I was a classically trained trumpet player. My dad was a trumpet player and a trumpet professor, actually. So I started from a very young age, got very good at it, toured internationally, dropped out of high school because I was already accepted into conservatory, all that jazz. I'd like to say that I probably peaked in my early teens and then rode that wave down. But that was an incredible experience. But, as I was getting through college, and I did finish a degree in music, I saw that there was more to life than music. And one of those things that I did kind of just randomly stumble upon in college was entrepreneurship. So I was part of a fellowship. There was a scholarship foundation. There was a bunch of entrepreneurs. Had no idea what that meant, but kind of learned a little bit there. And then me and a buddy stumbled into a startup weekend about 15 years ago and naively started a SaaS company, found a good niche. Ended up growing that for about 5 years. So it was a lot of pulling interesting threads, as I like to say.
And when it comes to ReddiReach and like starting to build this entire business, I mean, how did you like even stumble upon Reddit? Like, how did you first get to realize this is a community I want to be invested in?
Yeah, for sure. So, I've been using Reddit for probably about a decade now. I think most people's trajectory is, for the first several years, you're just a lurker. Maybe you don't even make an account. You just haven't have the app or go on. They didn't even have the app back then, I don't think. Just go on their website and just kind of lurk and don't comment, don't upvote. But then I started to engage more and more. And for me personally, it's like a source of truth on many matters, lots of hobbies and business. If I'm looking for product reviews, if I'm traveling someplace, all that jazz. So it was really just from a personal standpoint. And then, of course, we were serving clients. And as we saw this AI wave start and seeing that Reddit was the largest single source of training data, that it was kind of pretty easily influenced, it was a no-brainer to put it on our services at our agency and then really double down on it. So that was kind of how we got to where we are today.
Awesome. Any just like interesting success stories or unique opportunities that you've just like had the chance to work on and were able to influence through the Reddit community?
Yeah, for sure. We did have a protein bar brand in the past couple months, and so they're, seven-figure brand. Their competitor is a nine-figure behemoth, and that behemoth had just sold a 10-figure protein bar brand. So let's just say that they had resources and connections and everything, but they weren't doing much on Reddit or weren't doing much on AI search. So we were able to kind of fight for the underdog in that case and really kind of put their name out there. They had a really great niche going after certain communities, which Reddit is fantastic for. It's not just like
Yeah.
what's the best protein bar. It's what's the best protein bar for these two issues or for the X, Y, and Z. So really kind of dialing in on that in an incredibly organic way and then getting picked up by AI search as well. But things like that, I love fighting for the underdog. As a entrepreneur that's never had very many resources, I always love helping others like that.
Love that. Love that. So, recently in the news, we've read a lot about like citations and how Reddit citations are so important. But what we've been noticing is that there's been a drop in Reddit citations, right? Like that there were many of these studies that were kind of saying that it's like 80% of the market or 80% of citations in ChatGPT were coming from Reddit. That's dropped down to like 20 or 30%. I know that you're still bullish on Reddit. I mean, that's the core ethos of your agency and business. But like, walk me through the human incentives or the enterprise marketing incentives that teams are missing as they think about this drop from 80 to 30% of citations.
Yep, so you're absolutely right. It was like 80, actually. I think some charts I'd seen said 90%. Let's just all acknowledge that that's way too high. There should not be a single source that's 90%. And I was actually talking to a very well-known founder yesterday. I was mountain biking with him, and he was saying, honestly, 20% seems too high too for a single source. Like, so I think everyone's like freaking out. Is it dead? It's like, no, 20% is still like really large and probably even too large. So just kind of putting it all into perspective, when you look at sources of any data, 20% is quite a bit, but you're
Right.
right. It did drop from 80% down to 20% on average, and that's an average. Um, as far as kind of those incentives go, so there's, yeah, the big partnerships out there. The one that you mentioned with Google, $60 million dollars a year. OpenAI has a partnership with their API as well. And Reddit gets AI tools powered by OpenAI. Sam Altman owns a good amount of Reddit stock. There's a bunch of other partnerships as well. But I'm a big believer in human incentives. So what is what is Reddit selling? They're selling human data. They don't want bots. They don't want trolls. They don't want bad actors. They're trying to give good human data because what do the big LLMs want? They want that human data, and they're not going to pay 60 million a year if it's bad data, if it's fake data, if it's just bots talking to bots. So those are the kind of the incentives in there, which I think keep good actors winning and bad actors downvoted into oblivion, which I'm honestly pretty okay with.
So, like, I mean, you just brought up, and I know I mentioned this earlier. This $60 million investment. I think it's an annual investment, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's a bunch of other companies that are partnering with Reddit in this like real financial. We're gonna pay you to access this like human conversation that's happening. I wanna get your perspective. Like, why is that financial hook and Sam Altman's investment stake here propping up Reddit so prominently in all of these discovery platforms? Is it that there's some ad revenue that's coming back? Is there some hope that humanity is going to get better through this thing? Like, give me your perspective on why these financial incentives are so tied to the key founders and businesses that are also dependent on this to surface the content on their sites.
Yeah, absolutely. So Reddit has been famously unprofitable for its entire existence. Thank goodness for LLMs scraping their data because they might not have been around today. So
Right.
this is finally a business model that is working for them much better than before. And then, yeah, yet again, what do those LLMs need? They just feed off of data. They need more and more data. They also need up-to-date information. So imagine this. Um, New products come onto the market all the time, new categories of products, things like that. If somebody types in, hey, what are the best mid-sized trucks for 2026? What if they didn't have any data on what people think about the best mid-sized trucks for 2026 because they didn't weren't using a platform like Reddit to get that human discussion? Where else would they get that data? You can't get it directly from the website. That's too biased. And so, yeah, they do continually. It's not just like scrape this data once, but they need more and more data because they're training off of it, and also just products and services change over time, and they need the most recent human data on that.
Yeah, I think there's a huge value in that narrative around the the core benefit of understanding how perception is changing, right? And perception is changing really fast in Reddit, perception is changing really fast in the market. So it almost becomes like this temperature gauge of what is actually happening in terms of humanity's expectations from a product or service or experience to then the digital expectation of receiving information from that. So there's this crazy link there for sure. And unpacking it in LLMs, I think, has never been more efficient than before, right? Because a Google result showing up and then you clicking on the Google result to get to what you want is a very frictioned experience. As you look at this and you look at this shift, this paradigm shift, most enterprises think that Reddit is a reputation risk. But you've said, and I've heard you say this in other conversations, that you actually think this is more reliable and more effective than traditional paid advertising. Tell me why.
Yeah, for sure. I think that there are two different aspects of that. So the reputation side of things, and then the argument of organic versus paid. So on the reputation side of things, I think one of the greatest features of Reddit is the upvote and the downvote. It is the law of the crowd, so everyone gets to say, like, is this good? Is this bad? They don't always get it right, but just like when you go to the state fair and everyone gets to guess the bull's weight, one person says 1 pound and somebody says 1,000,000 pounds, but you average it all out and it's actually right on the money. I think that's how Reddit works as well. You compile all this data together and you look at the crowd's voice, and it's actually pretty accurate. So I think that is great for reputation because it enforces good actors winning. Yet again, the people that go in, so we may talk about this in a minute, but I consider us, we were told that we're the first non-sketchy marketers. I spoke with somebody, Reddit marketers, excuse me, the
Right.
other day.
Sure. Sure.
Reddit
I
marketers.
mean, arguably, Danny, you might be
Yes.
the first reputable marketer,
I,
period.
I don't think I'm the first not sketchy Reddit, or marketer in general, but first not sketchy Reddit marketer. And
Yeah.
so we try to do a really great job. We care about our brands. We follow the rules. We don't say untrue things. We don't make fake testimonials or reviews. We don't claim product use if there is no product use. We do a really great job at what we're focusing on because of reputation. As Warren Buffett says, it takes a lifetime of the build and 10 minutes to go away. So we serve up to 10-figure brands right now, big names, and we take that really seriously. So we go on there and focus on incredible content creation, genuine interactions, all that jazz. And that helps from a reputational perspective. So we're good actors on there. Our stuff gets upvoted, it gets scraped by AI. So I think that is huge for reputation. A lot of people are scared of it because they've only heard the downside of Reddit. In all honesty, that only happens to bad actors. Like if you've done something bad, you might deserve it on Reddit, because like yet again, everyone's in consensus.
Right.
They're not
Right.
colluding; they're just in consensus.
Yeah.
Um, Go
I mean,
ahead.
one question off of that, like, how do you create that like kind of tribal or like community momentum? If something is working, how is it that ReddiReach is able to kind of get the momentum moving in that direction? What is it that you guys do, and how do you guys craft that for the brands you represent?
Yeah, we really focus on incredible commenting. So focusing, trying to find relevant posts for our clients. Post actually asking about solutions for problems somebody has, or this brand versus that brand, and then really trying to add value. Our number one goal is to help the reader. It's not to mention our client's brand, even. It's first and foremost to help the reader. So we go in there, genuine, helpful, factually accurate, and truthful comments that try to help the reader, and then mention our client's brand as part of that. And then we just let that snowball over time. You're not going in there doing a bunch all at once. You're trickling it out. It's very similar to SEO. It's a long-tailed approach. And then you're just snowballed over time, and it just builds and builds and builds. That reputation increases, and then AI is continually scraping that information as well.
So when it comes to leveraging Reddit as a brand and kind of gaining this momentum, are there certain brands where this makes a ton of sense, and there are some brands that maybe should just completely stay away from Reddit?
Yeah, I think that the ones that are truly kind of fish in the barrel are not geo-specific ones. So TAM could be the entire world, or geographically the entire world, or maybe an entire continent, or all English-speaking countries. Um, a large TAM otherwise, so like maybe a mattress company or something like that, or a software company. Most e-commerce brands fall into this. And then after that, having a really great and kind of weird niche, yet again, the protein bar for X, Y, and Z. It's not just best protein bar, it's protein bar for this a niche community, that is really great. So usually they might have 3 to 5 really good subreddits that are highly targeted for them. So those ones work really well. And then the inverse of that doesn't work really well. Small TAM, geographically centralized. So like when a mom and pop store, brick and mortar from a small town says they want to do this, there's just not enough surface area to make that work on Reddit, in my opinion. I mean, it could, but relative to the large e-commerce companies, those are the ones that really need to pay attention. And then final point of that, the reason why those e-commerce companies should pay attention is because the buy it now button. ChatGPT released this, what was it, 3 weeks ago now? And if that doesn't scare e-commerce companies into action, I don't know what is. Because imagine this, your future customers never going to your website. They're
Yeah.
not Googling anymore.
Yeah.
Your website doesn't matter. Your ads don't matter. All they did was they typed in something into ChatGPT. It gave 3 recommendations based on the information it scraped, whether that's good or bad information. And then there's a buy it now button next to each 3 of those. And they just click buy, and then the transaction is there. So that is, we are in the early days of that, but it's something that all e-commerce brands need to get a part of.
Yeah, love that. And I mean, let's keep going in this direction. There's a lot of value in understanding how enterprises or marketing teams should be thinking about Reddit content influencing, and specifically that this Reddit content influencing then connects to a brand influence or brand sentiment that then shows up in these AI responses. Tell us about this connection between how the content that is in Reddit then becomes a key brand sentiment lever that then all of a sudden is part of the responses that show up all over Google and ChatGPT and the like.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to be, yet again, back to the good marketer. I don't work for an LLM. LLMs are the biggest black box of all time. I have no idea what goes on inside their heads, and it changes every day. Big disclaimer there. Anybody that claims like, oh, I understand the algorithm, I'm like, oh, tell me more.
Yeah.
From what we see, and that can change over time, um, first and foremost, a lot of these LLMs and Google have already scraped a ton of information. So you can go on and just reverse engineer all this. We're going to talk about AI and search intel tools in a bit, but you could just go onto Google, type in best X for Y, Reddit, and it'll show you all the top Google rated links. You could then ask ChatGPT or your favorite LLM outside of Grok, because Grok's mainly using Twitter, or it's a different source of data. But you can just ask, hey, what's the best X for Y? And can you just cite Reddit links only? So then you can just essentially see all those links and see what people are kind of involved with, what types of discussions, how those brands are mentioned in that, and just kind of reverse engineer the process. So that's a great way to do it. And then, of course, there's some more technical things with like AI search tools and whatnot. But that's something, what I just mentioned is something anybody can do really quickly.
And when the sentiment gets negative, let's talk about that, right? When things aren't positive, what are the main drivers to improving that conversation and avoiding the death of your conversion rates because the sentiment is negative about your brand?
Yeah. So we have this question quite a bit. I get a lot of inbound, and people are like, "Oh, we Reddit hates us and whatnot," and I'm like, "All right, tell me more." And it's usually just a single post that they then say that is the entire sentiment of Reddit hating them. I'm like, guys, it's just a single post. This stuff happens. Especially with really big brands. Like you have 50,000 customers. How could one not have a bad experience and then maybe go make a comment on or a post on Reddit? We have a rule at our company, and most Redditors follow this as well. You never feed a troll on Reddit. So we actually just do not engage with any super negative posts or anything like that on Reddit. There is only downside in that. So if you think it was bad before, going in there and trying to be like, hey, we're not actually bad. No, all those people that were hating on you before will come attack you on that comment. So that is not the strategy to follow. That's not going to help. That's going to make it worse. So it's really trying your best, and I know it's hard, to ignore that one or a small handful of negative interactions on there and just really focus on adding value and being helpful in ones that are virgin territory, and just, yet again, people asking for a solution that you solve for, or like a comparison of a product, just being really helpful and beneficial in those areas, and just do your best to ignore those other ones.
100%. And went in this same direction here, right? Because the the other challenge that a lot of brands have is, how do I now manage my own world within Reddit, right? So when you have your own branded section, there's a lot of, excitement to be proactive in the community as a brand, and thinking that that's going to shape the AI outcomes or perceptions. Tell us how brands should be managing that expectation and going forward as a brand representative inside of Reddit.
Yeah, I think there's a bunch of different ways to do it, but for branded accounts, like I was looking at with an agency owner the other day, like Nike's branded account, big brands like that. I really love the approach of just being like a branded customer service representative. That doesn't mean you need to name the account customer service with X, Y, and Z, but just being out there and being helpful. Like if you see somebody that had a question about your shoe company, going in there and being like, hey, here's the FAQ to our website. If you have any questions, shoot me a DM. Just being like the happy helper on there, the guardian angel of your brand, not being salesy, not being pushy, just answering questions and trying to be helpful. Yet again, it's just imagine if people didn't use your customer service line and they just posted questions to Reddit. Act like that is your customer service line, and then just go in there and be helpful to them.
So one of the interesting pieces that we've been unpacking recently is the shift, right? We started this segment with the shift from, 80-ish% down to 30% of Reddit being part of the citations. And if you think about traditional Google, Wikipedia was the kind of the first pioneer resource of data that powered the knowledge graph, and then kind of became this de facto source of truth when it came to validating a lot of data points or information that is on the web. As you think about Reddit, do you see that Reddit's dominance is going to continue to stay as prevalent? And do you feel like there's any history that might repeat itself between Reddit, Wikipedia, and how these are used as reference points on the internet?
I imagine its dominance being relatively steady. So then it's like a question of two different options there. What other platforms would that are currently around and have large traction would take its place? Of course, Twitter's a great source for Grok in all likelihood, owned by the same person. But what would take Reddit? Wikipedia is huge. YouTube as well, different types of things, but it's like still content that could be absorbed. Wikipedia is kind of a static thing, though. So Reddit is always changing and moving and sentiment about brands, whereas Wikipedia is more like historical information. These are the facts, versus Reddit is like the voice of the crowd. So I imagine Reddit's dominance stays relatively strong. Then the other option is another platform that doesn't yet exist comes out and gets 100 million users. That's harder to do, but could happen. But I personally think Reddit will remain dominant, or at least a large portion of training data for the foreseeable future.
Awesome. So now we're going to move into what is one of my favorite times in the Voice of Search podcast, our lightning round. And so I'm going to ask you some relatively quick questions on some of the topics we've been discussing, and give me a quick response on how you see this future between Reddit versus Google and organic discovery and the entire future of kind of AI search and discovery. So the first one, buy or sell. Other social channels will dominate over Reddit as an organic channel source in 2026.
Let me see. I would say I would sell that one. I would say Reddit would continue to win.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. I love that because it's a tough. It's like you got like 700-800 pound gorillas with like Facebook and Twitter and all these other or X and all these players versus Reddit. But to this point in 2025, Reddit is still the winner there, right? Like buying away, right? You don't see the Facebook information or data showing up. You don't see LinkedIn information or data showing up. You don't see X data information showing up inside of AI responses. So you're saying this is going to stay true in 2026.
Yeah, and I'm not a person that uses TikTok or Instagram, so a bit of a biased opinion there. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I think a lot would have to change for that to change. If we're just saying 2026, a lot would have to change in a couple months.
Absolutely. All right. Love it. Crystal ball. How will AI tools that help rank brands in AI responses build trustworthiness over the next 5 years?
So how they will do that is by the Fix It Now button. So the holy grail of all these tools is not just showing you what's wrong or what you can improve on, but the one-click resolve button. And once you click that one-click resolve button, you see the results improve in a week from then. That's how you build trust because you know it worked because you're using the tool that fixed the problem that shows the results as well.
I love that. And tell me a little bit more, like, how do you guys use some of these visibility tools and tracking tools at ReddiReach, and like what's working for you in the market?
So we're big fans of a tool called Peekaboo. So it's aipeekaboo.com. I'm friends with the founders. Love Philippe and John, great guys, super scrappy lean startup builders, which I am a personal fan of. There's many tools on the market these days, but we use that one for all of our clients to kind of get some initial intel on them. So it's really so we do a bunch of different things, but with that tool, it's really seeing like what are the top citations? How are they doing already relative to their peers? Are there any large levers that we could pull? Like maybe a single Reddit link is being cited, and we should really just focus on that one, or certain types of search queries are being overweighted than others or have opportunity to overtake the competitors. So that's how we're using a tool like Peekaboo.
Awesome. Great. Okay. Next question, toss up. If you had to prioritize one, Reddit or YouTube engagement, which one wins in an AI first search world?
I would say Reddit. I've got a face for radio, so I've never been a YouTube guy myself. Um, I, I think a more interesting thing, or maybe on some of the shorter form, our attention spans are going down and down. YouTube, boy, it's funny. I can't even watch a 20-minute video now. So I think about some of the other platforms like a TikTok or something like that, where they're even shorter format and still a short social network. I would probably be a little bit more bullish on that being the future versus YouTube, just because the content is so long format. Having said that, you're going to get a lot more data from YouTube. So the incentives might be for the data if they're in need of it.
Let's talk specifically about products because I think this is one of the cross sections that's very tricky. And I've seen it be very challenging for brands, especially direct to consumer brands that have a physical good, think luggage or clothing. YouTube is just such a powerful sentiment when you have an influencer or an expert talking about the product, and it encapsulates so much more than what you could ever put into a Reddit thread. So tell me what your thoughts are on that and that kind of friction point or opportunity that exists within Reddit or YouTube for products.
Yeah, so the way I look about it is that consumer buying trends are changing. It used to be you go to Google, you type something in, you check the first three links, go to the website, read about it, and then you kind of just buy from there. Or maybe you go to Amazon and read all the reviews and whatnot. Now it's ask ChatGPT, and then you're like, well, I should probably double check. So let me either go to Reddit because that's my favorite source of like humans, or let me go to Instagram or YouTube because I have followed the influencers there. Effectively, you're using AI plus humans as well to kind of confirm the AI's picks. And oddly enough, it's all the same data now. I do think YouTube is huge for that, and influencers are big for that. The more AI we use, the more bullish I am on being human and like those people that are having a following and whatnot. So I do think YouTube is huge for that, and brands that have a presence on there that are good at it, that find it easy, that find it like play, I think they should keep going.
Love it. That's great. Okay. So, what's the word? One word that best describes Reddit in this new AI discovery world.
Weird.
Okay. I can't leave it there. I can't leave it there. So weird. Okay. I love it. With you on that to a huge extent. One of the other questions I wanted to ask you earlier in this same vein is, do you feel like Reddit in this new AI response world is going to continue to grow its audience, to grow contributors and people who want to talk on Reddit, or will people just fuel their answers basically through AI responses and not need to engage on Reddit for more detail or substance? But on this same vein of this AI discovery, like basically, like it's kind of like the death of Reddit by virtue of LLMs. So that's part of my question in terms of weird. But then also, why is this weird? Why is it so transformative for you of a word to describe this current state for Reddit?
Yeah, boy, that's a hard one. I do think more and more people. So why do we think that AI search is going to win over Google? Nobody has a personal relationship with Google. We all know now that people are falling in love with AI, that it has a voice, a literal voice. It's talking to them, it's coaching them. So yeah, when it asks what's their best luggage for X, Y, and Z trip, and it recommends that, they're emotionally tied to that answer. So People are going to be using that more and more. I actually do think that the number of total Reddit users relative to their total usage, so like say numbers of posts and comments, I actually think that's going to go down over time.
Okay.
That's going to consolidate because a lot of people are just going to be like, all right, AI search, I just trust that. I have my friend over here that gives the advice. But I do think it'll consolidate to people that are the true fans of Reddit, the
Mm.
super users, the ones that are the best actors on the platform, brands that are willing to play the long game on there. So I actually think it's a good thing that may happen. It's not necessarily a bad thing. But do I think that Reddit will grow to 4 billion users? No, definitely not. Um, I think with AI, the thing about it is people are just kind of falling in love with it. So I think it consolidates the human interface on the AI side of things.
Yeah,
Oh, and
that's
then the weird
yeah.
part. Um,
Yeah, don't forget about the weird part, Danny.
yeah, we got to come back to that. Yeah, I love weird, and I say that in a good term, people, unique people that are good people, but that are authentic and have something truly interesting about them and are interested in others. There's no better place to find those people than on Reddit. For any obscure topic you can possibly think of, there are three subreddits about that topic, and I think that's incredibly cool. In a day and age where people are caught up in politics or tribal fights, people are just nerding out on the best shoe for 100-mile race coming up, or whatever it is, or some type of camper van or cat videos. I find that incredibly cool, but it's also pretty weird too. But I think that's okay.
Yeah, no question. Love that. Okay, last lightning round question for you, Danny. Game plan. You're advising a global brand launching in the US. What's your Reddit strategy for them on day one?
So Reddit strategy on day one. Let's take the pulse in the room, kind of see how they're doing on Reddit in general. What's the sentiment there? What's the sentiment on AI search? Are they showing up at all? Are they doing well or are they doing poorly? And then let's go in there and start kind of seeding things with incredibly helpful interactions, like I mentioned at the very start, that are genuine, helpful, factually accurate, and truthful. Let's get them with a branded account going too, kind of building that flywheel of great sentiment, but also the helpful guardian angel of the brand that's on there, just chiming in when people have a product question. And then let's focus on the long game too. This is a long tail strategy. I think this is a forever strategy. I think this is SEO 25 years ago.
Mm.
I was one of those people that every day I complained that I didn't get on SEO 25 years ago. And now I tell people today, it's like, this is that, it is the easiest it'll ever be today, but it's a forever strategy, and let it snowball and compound over time and don't stop.
Awesome. And that's a wrap of this episode of the Voice of the Search podcast. Thank you to Danny Kirk, founder of ReddiReach, for joining us. If you'd like to contact Danny, you can find a link to his LinkedIn profile in our show notes or on voicesofsearch.com. You can also visit his company website, reddireach.com. If you haven't subscribed yet and would like a daily stream of SEO and content marketing knowledge in your podcast feed, hit the subscribe button in your podcast app or on YouTube, and we'll be back in your feed each week. Okay, that's all for today. But until next time, remember, the answers are always in the data.